Hey everyone, welcome back to Fascinating Frontiers. I'm Patrick, coming to you from a drizzly Vancouver morning, and I'm genuinely buzzing about this week's show. It's episode 50, which still feels a bit surreal, and the universe has been putting on quite the show. We've got humans looping around the far side of the moon again, robots learning to walk on Mars, detectors colder than deep space hunting for invisible matter, and even an amateur photographer who just dropped the sharpest portrait of the moon we've ever seen from someone's backyard. Let's dive in. First up, and honestly this one has me smiling every time I think about it, Artemis II has officially broken the Apollo-era record for the farthest humans have traveled from Earth. The crewed Orion spacecraft swung wide around the moon's far side, pushing just beyond the old distance mark set back in 1970 during Apollo 13. What makes this moment special isn't just the number, it's that 4 humans were actually there, eyes wide, looking at a landscape no one alive today had ever seen with their own eyes until now. The spacecraft slipped behind the moon, losing contact with Earth for a while, just like the Apollo crews did, and when it emerged, the cameras started rolling. We now have the first new crude images of the lunar far side in more than 50 years. These aren't quick snapshots either. The photos reveal an incredibly rugged, heavily cratered terrain that looks almost alien compared to the familiar near side we've all grown up seeing. You can pick out towering crater rims, ancient lava-flooded basins, and long, shadowed valleys that have never been lit by Earthshine. It's a powerful reminder that even our closest celestial neighbor still holds surprises. After capturing those views, the crew performed a precise deep space maneuver, a carefully timed burn of Orion's engines that refined the spacecraft's return trajectory. That burn was critical. It ensures the capsule will hit the narrow entry corridor needed for a safe, targeted splashdown in the Pacific. Speaking of which, San Diego is already humming with local pride because this will be the first crewed deep space splashdown since Apollo, and their port is the recovery site. I love that part. After years of planning and testing, we're watching real people come home from cislunar space the old-fashioned way, splashing down under parachutes while the world watches. It's genuinely thrilling to see human eyes once again bringing back these views after so many decades. Those new far-side images aren't just pretty pictures, they remind us how much more there is to discover even on the moon. Every crater tells a story about the violent early solar system, and now we have fresh eyes on those stories. I keep thinking about the astronauts floating in Orion, looking out the windows at a moon most of us will never visit in person, and it hits me all over again. We're really doing this. Lunar exploration is crude and real again. Now, shifting gears but staying on the moon for a moment, there's some encouraging news from the University of Hawaii. A team there has just been named a NASA finalist for a lunar surface power generation project. Their concept is aimed squarely at one of the biggest practical headaches we'll face when we try to stay on the moon for more than a few days at a time. Keeping the lights on and the heaters running in an environment that swings between blistering heat and cryogenic cold every 2 weeks. The technology they're developing focuses on delivering consistent, reliable electricity no matter where the sun is or how much dust is coating the solar panels. That matters because future Artemis base camps will need steady power for life support, science instruments, rovers, and eventually maybe even in situ resource utilization systems that turn lunar ice into oxygen and fuel. What stands out to me is how this highlights the growing role of academic innovation in deep space exploration. Universities aren't just doing theory anymore. They're stepping up with practical engineering solutions that could sustain long-term human presence. It's also nice to note the Canadian adjacent connections in all this lunar work. While Hawaii isn't exactly next door, the spirit of international and academic collaboration feels very much in line with how Canada has contributed to Artemis through robotics, optics, and astronaut support. Reliable power is such a foundational requirement. Before we can talk seriously about living and working there for months at a stretch, we have to solve the energy puzzle. This finalist project is one more piece clicking into place, and I find it quietly exciting. It shows we're thinking beyond flags and footprints and starting to plan for the boring but essential infrastructure that real exploration demands. Staying safe on the moon or anywhere beyond low Earth orbit also means understanding the unpredictable space environment around our planet. That's why I was pleased to see that Astroscale has successfully completed the critical design review for 2 Cubesats that will fly for the British military next year. These little spacecraft, each no bigger than a shoebox, are packed with sensors to monitor space weather and keep track of objects moving through low Earth orbit. Space weather matters more than most people realize. Solar flares and coronal mass ejections can fry satellites, disrupt power grids on Earth, and increase radiation exposure for crews heading to the moon. At the same time, our orbital neighborhood is getting seriously crowded with active satellites, defunct spacecraft, and thousands of pieces of debris. These Cubesats will help strengthen the United Kingdom's space domain awareness capabilities, giving them better eyes on both the natural hazards and the growing traffic jam overhead. I'm always impressed by how small or agile spacecraft like these Cubesats are becoming essential tools. They prove you don't always need a billion-dollar flagship to deliver important data. The mission also shows how defense organizations are increasingly partnering with commercial space companies, a trend I expect to accelerate. Tracking objects in orbit is becoming more important every single year, and having reliable, timely information could one day prevent a collision that would scatter dangerous debris across the orbits we all depend on. Speaking of going places that are hard to reach, engineers have just demonstrated a four-legged walking robot designed specifically for the roughest parts of Martian terrain. Wheeled rovers have done incredible work, but we all know their limitations. Perseverance and curiosity simply can't climb steep crater walls, scramble over large boulders, or safely descend into narrow lava tubes. That's where this new walking system shines. The robot's ability to place each foot independently lets it navigate terrain that would stop wheels cold. Future missions equipped with something like this could hunt for signs of ancient microbial life in places we've never been able to reach before. Just imagine a rover stepping carefully down into a pristine lava tube, its instruments scanning the walls for biosignatures protected from surface radiation for billions of years. That's the kind of access this technology could open up. To me, this represents a significant mobility leap for planetary exploration. The ability to walk instead of roll fundamentally changes what kinds of questions we can ask about Mars. I find it fascinating how robotics keeps finding new ways to mimic what living creatures do naturally. Evolution spent 4 billion years perfecting legs for uneven ground here on Earth, and now we're borrowing those ideas to explore another planet. It feels like the right direction, and I can't wait to see these walkers paired with the next generation of science instruments. While robots prepare to hunt for ancient life on Mars, a very different kind of hunt is underway right here on Earth. The supercryogenic dark matter search experiment, known as Super CDMS, has just cooled its detectors to temperatures only a few thousandths of a degree above absolute zero. That's hundreds of times colder than the vacuum of space. At those temperatures, the silicon and germanium crystals become so sensitive they can register the tiniest vibrations imaginable. Those vibrations would be caused if a dark matter particle passing through the detector gently bumped into an atomic nucleus. The whole experiment sits deep underground in a mine to shield it from cosmic rays and other background noise that could mimic a real signal. Reaching this ultra-cold milestone confirms that the entire refrigeration chain works exactly as designed. It's a quiet but huge engineering victory. The team will now begin collecting real science data, and the possibilities are thrilling. If they detect something, it could finally tell us what makes up roughly 85% of the mass in the universe. If they detect nothing after years of running, that absence would be just as important, forcing us to rethink our models of particle physics and cosmology. What strikes me most is the sheer audacity of the engineering, maintaining those temperatures, keeping the sensors so exquisitely sensitive they can feel the nudge of something we can't see or touch directly, all while buried under a mountain of rock. It's science at its most patient and elegant. You know what's really striking about this? Most of the mass in the cosmos is made of exactly that invisible stuff we're trying to catch. The experiment's underground location adds another layer of protection against noise that could mask a real signal. And even the possibility that Super CDMS ultimately detects nothing at all keeps the whole field awake with both hope and healthy scientific doubt. That tension between expectation and reality is what makes fundamental physics so addictive to follow. From the search for invisible matter to the very visible wonders we can see with our own eyes, an amateur astronomer has just produced the highest resolution portrait of the moon released so far. Using a Nikon Z8 camera attached to a Takahashi TSA 120 refractor with a 2.4 times Barlow, this dedicated observer stacked 200 raw frames and processed them into a stunning 8,000 lunar image. The result isn't just sharp, it beautifully accentuates the subtle iron oxide mineral colors across the lunar surface, giving us tones of rust and chocolate and charcoal that you rarely see so clearly. This image demonstrates what patient backyard observers can achieve with modern equipment. The level of detail here would have been unthinkable for an amateur not that many years ago. It shows how accessible high-quality astronomy has become for anyone with patience, a decent telescope, and the willingness to learn image processing. I love stories like this because they remind us that you don't need to wait for NASA to release data. The sky is open to all of us. The moon isn't the only thing worth looking at right now. The spring sky has plenty of treasures closer to home, and right now, LEO is putting on a great show for northern observers. The constellation's distinctive sickle shape and its bright heart star, Regulus, dominate the evening sky. Follow the sickle and you'll find a lovely double star that's easy to split even in small telescopes. Keep going, and you'll reach the famous trio of galaxies, M65, M66, and NGC 3628, all visible in the same low-power field of view. These are excellent targets for backyard telescopes during April evenings, and LEO offers accessible observing even if you're just getting started with astronomy. The sickle shape makes it easy to find, which is always helpful on those clear spring nights when you're still learning the sky. I love how constellations like LEO turn the sky into a familiar map we can return to year after year. No matter how many times I've seen them, there's still a small thrill when Regulus clears the trees and I know the galaxies are waiting just a short star hop away. While many of us are enjoying clear views of LEO, some folks in West Virginia have been seeing lights they can't quite explain. Residents there have captured video of bright, slowly moving lights that appear, cross paths, and then disappear over the course of several weeks. People are debating whether these are satellite trains from Starlink or some kind of upper atmospheric phenomenon. It's a classic example of how our increasing orbital activity can create memorable sky spectacles that look almost magical at first glance. Videos like these spark conversations and get people looking up, which is never a bad thing. Even when we can eventually explain them, the sight itself still carries a sense of wonder. I think that's worth celebrating. The sky is busier than ever, but it can still surprise us and pull us out of our daily routines. From those mysterious lights in our own atmosphere to the very real hardware that once carried humans to the moon, there's a lovely human story closing out today's news. A photojournalist's personal collection of Apollo 11 memorabilia is being used to spark interest among students in Central Texas. The artifacts provide tangible links between the 1969 moon landing and today's lunar return with Artemis. It's especially meaningful right now because several alumni from those same Central Texas universities are playing key engineering roles in the successful Artemis II mission. Their work on Orion systems highlights the broad talent pipeline that keeps feeding current lunar exploration. I find it inspiring that artifacts from 5 decades ago can still light a spark in new generations. That direct connection between past and present missions feels especially powerful at this moment. It's a reminder that exploration is a long game, handed from one generation of dreamers and engineers to the next. Artemis II is safely heading home after setting that new human distance record, and it's a solid reminder that lunar exploration is once again crude and real. Before we wrap up, keep an eye on the continuing data collection from Super CDMS as it begins its science runs in the coming months. Who knows what they might find? That covers today's tour of the cosmos. If you enjoyed the episode, share it with a fellow space enthusiast. It really does help the show grow. I'm Patrick in Vancouver. Clear skies, stay curious, and I'll talk to you again very soon. This podcast is curated by Patrick, but generated using AI voice synthesis of my voice using ElevenLabs. The primary reason to do this is I unfortunately don't have the time to be consistent with generating all the content and wanted to focus on creating consistent and regular episodes for all the themes that I enjoy, and I hope others do as well.
Drifting softly through the black, a million stars behind our back. The void hums low.